that stuff. Yeah, so
I think this would be a good point. Maybe we should show the trailer.
sure.
Let's show that to people. Steve, can you pull it up? It's called The Discovery, right? Just type in The Discovery DMT on YouTube, you'll find it. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, full screen that bad boy.
By the way, I want to mention that. Pause for a second. I'm sorry. I just want to mention that the director of this trailer and the film we're working on is Aaron Vanden. He truly is incredible. He came up with this thing in less than a week. It's just unbelievable. I think where credit is due, and it's very important to mention.
Shout out to Aaron.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I remember things very vividly from a very young age. When I was a little kid, I actually spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather was a nuclear physicist. I remember he was telling me about black holes, and that terrified me.
I was like, that's just mind-boggling. It's a monster, right?
But at the same time, it fascinated me. And I said to myself, how do we know that? This unthinkably massive thing. I realized that nature doesn't keep secrets. It's only a matter of, do we understand? What tools can we use to expand our knowledge? And for me, dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT, was the tool that led me to the discovery.
When I first saw the phenomenon, I was like, holy shit!
But then it was actually like, whoa, what is happening?
Am I losing my mind? But then I showed other people, and things kept getting weirder.
Just for the record, I haven't told him anything. Okay, just tell me what you see.
Oh my god, come on.
Wow, what the fuck? Holy shit. I just saw something. Yeah. What the fuck?
Oh, I see that. I feel it.
I've been under the influence of mind-altering substances a lot, but I've never seen anything like that. Whoa.
I showed over 100 people, and I kept asking myself, how are all of us seeing the same thing?
Oh my god. It's changing shapes right there.
The laser was revealing numbers and letters running in a pattern.
They're almost like this big here, and it looks like code.
It looked like
That was a thick
programming
laser.
code.
That's why I told you, yeah.
Something, and I just want to take a picture of it and translate it.
Wow.
You see that?
Okay, so yeah, it's not stuck.
No,
It's not because of the light.
no, it's on its own side. Light is just literally revealing it.
And each angle shows you different layers, different ways through it.
I could see through the wall. It's not like a hallucination. It has spatial awareness and permanence.
I don't know. Whoa.
For centuries, mankind has attempted to explore these psychedelic, altered states, but we've never had a repeatable, testable phenomenon to observe until now.
I'm obsessed.
It's like you can see through the laser into another dimension.
I mean, like, take yourself to that. Like, I just made a connection that nobody made before, which is a simple connection. The claim is, if you project a diffracted laser on a surface and you smoke DMT, you will see code running in surfaces. Yes, like in the Matrix.
So there are a few possibilities. One,
I lost my mind, which is the coolest losing your mind ever in history.
the second option is that
This is the biggest discovery of humankind. if anybody ever asked themselves what it would be like to know you live in the Matrix for sure, well, I know for sure. I'm convinced.
So where do we go from here? All I know is
It's about to get crazy.
So what gave you the idea to throw this, first of all, create this diffracted laser and shine it on the wall while you were on DMT?
Well, that's what the movie is going to be depicting, basically. A lot of it is what are the moves that I had to take to kind of figure it out. It took years. Basically, so the question of whether the space is real is not the first time that anybody's asking this question. As you, of course, know, because you had people on the podcast like Alan Moore that are literally involved directly with these investigations on a scale of like actually putting in a lab and, you know.
Right.
So that question is already out there. I actually wasn't aware that more serious people are asking this question when I asked myself that question. I just had a set of experiences that were so real. So like everything you experienced yesterday, I've had it for years, right?
Yeah.
Then I had a set of experiences that was one level above that, if you can imagine that. Which is, it just became like my regular space. So I came back from actually a meditation retreat, and I always say I'm not sure it's necessarily related, but that's how it happened chronologically. And something tells me maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something about I was aligned enough, pure enough. I have no idea. But basically, I was called to smoke it and smoked a bunch of it. And then I realized after about 45 minutes that I was just staring at the ceiling. Nothing happened. Now, that's impossible, right? I smoked a bunch of it. And then I realized, oh, nothing happened. Now, there's a phenomena on DMT called a whiteout, which is that if you smoke too much, you don't even realize you went. Like, you just have a complete, like, you don't even realize that anything happened. Is it possible that that's what happened? Sure, I can't know, but I think I know the space enough to say, I don't think so. I think it was just like nothing happened. And then after 45 minutes, I had this thought, which is something that Terence McKenna said once in one of his talks. He was talking about mushrooms, but he said, this is not a drug. This is an alien disguising as a drug. And then I thought, wait, what if it's actually not kind of or a metaphor, or what if it's actually aliens talking to us through these molecules, through the mind space, which is somehow the real space? Like, what if the mind is the real space and this is all just like kind of a reflection of everything? So then, the second I thought that, you know how you have this dial in your brain responsible for how seriously you take a proposition? Like, there's a difference between thinking there's a fire in the house and knowing there's a fire in the house. There's an emotional response attached to the second proposition, right? You're like, oh yeah, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Okay?
Right.
So, the proposition, is this an actual alien civilization, went to full red in my head for a second. Like, I was just convinced of that. Like, the state that I occupied with my presence was just like, oh, this is an alien civilization talking to us. Now, I had this thought after 45 minutes of smoking DMT. I did not smoke anymore. In that instance, everything flashed white. I didn't smoke anymore. I don't even know how that's possible. Everything just flashed white, pop, like everything. And I heard whispers all over the room. Just pay attention to what I'm saying. Now, it wasn't English, but I understood that's what it was, right? I was like, and then a frog dude appeared right next to me, next to my bed, and he was as real as you. He was tangible, he was coherent, in space, standing. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I think I really did it this time. I was like, I was just staring at it. I was like, and then he basically, the whole room pointed at my guitar. And I was like, oh, they want to communicate to like music theory or whatever. I was like, I'm just practicing. I don't know anything about that. They're like, just go to the guitar. So got up, went to the guitar, pick up the guitar. He disappears from one side of the room and appears right next to me, like the speed of light, just like right next to me. And then he puts his frog fingers where I'm supposed to strum and, do the chords. Yeah. And he's like, do this. And I was like, and I'm trying to follow, and I'm still like all shaken up. Yeah. And I'm like, so I'm trying to do this, and all of a sudden, a melody starts to come on, like actual music. slow, because I was following slowly, but it like clearly this is a thing, right? And he's like, you don't know how to do this. I'm telling you how to do this. This is real information. I'm real. And I was like, I was just frozen. I was like, oh my God. And then in that instance, the only thing that came out, I just in the other room, I had an Airbnb guest. I was renting out the other room. It was a PhD postdoc, because I lived right next to UCLA, from Italy. His name was Marco. And I just exclaimed his name because I was just like, Marco! And it was like 2 a.m., so luckily he didn't get up, because I always say, like, what would I tell him? That a frog dude from another dimension taught me how to play the guitar, right? So then I was like, okay, so then he didn't wake up. I called my best friend. He came over. I was like, you gotta get here right now. He came over. And I told him what happened. And I'm like, you don't understand, this is real. And he goes like, and now, this guy, we've done everything together. Like we went really wild, did a bunch of things. So he's not new to this, right? And even he looked at me and went, I think you need to lay down. And I was like, no, you don't understand. This is real. And he's like, he couldn't accept that. So then from that moment on, when I started doing DMT, it was like literally like a phone call. Like I would do it and they would just appear. Not always like that frog dude, but they would be very coherent in space, and they would like explain things to me, talk to me, and I was like, this is insane. Like, and this was going on for like a year, right? And then I realized, I started reading online, and I found that this is a thing. Like, some people experience this new level of like talking to aliens, like they always come to them, like all that stuff. In fact, there was this one case that I was mentioned because it was really funny to me. Here in Florida, there was this guy who's a therapist, and this started happening to him, which is like he started talking to aliens on DMT, and he just dropped everything. He just did that full time, and eventually he had to go.
Quit his job?
I don't know if he quit his job, but he just stopped doing everything he was doing. And then eventually he himself had to go to a shrink.
Oh my God.
And then the other guy told him, okay, listen, you're not talking to aliens. You got to stop doing that, right? But the funny thing is, he was talking to aliens. That was real. It's just that we don't know what to do with that, which is kind of like where I landed. After about a year of this, I was like, okay, how do we prove this? You know, I was trying to ask them. People ask me, who is them? Well, people like that frog dude, like whomever that is, right? And it was always very esoteric. It was never something that was applicable to our space. It was like, oh, when we jump into your body and you do this, the whole room folds in half. Oh, great. What do I do with that, right? So eventually I just kind of said, okay, cool, like I'll come visit, but that's about as far as I can go with this, because now luckily it didn't actually really infringe itself too much into my regular life. I just kept on doing everything I was doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, at a certain point I had to kind of let it go. And then that was the beginning of all of this, and eventually, because I kept on thinking about this, like how do we prove this? And this is what the movie is going to be about. Things started happening to me, like hints that would appear, things that would, show up at the right time. And I just eventually kind of was led to this conclusion that if you project this laser, something is supposed to happen.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Holidays on the house with DraftKings Casino. With this season's offerings, you'll unwrap everything you wished for, from table games and jackpots to a slot at the top of everyone's list. Jingle bells, power reels. Like I've said before, I love DraftKings because I can jump in whenever I want and whenever I have downtime and not have to worry about dodging potholes while driving to the casino. And Steve hasn't even caught on yet, but I've been winning on his account too. Have a merry season like me with DraftKings. DraftKings is offering a warm welcome to new players with $100 instantly in casino credits with just a $10 wager. Plus, everyone can get in on the action with a holiday reward every week. So sign up with code DannyJonesPod because the holiday cheer is here. Only on DraftKings Casino. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available. For problems gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Opt-in required. Casino credits are non-withdrawable and expire in 168 hours. Terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. It's linked below. Now back to the show.
So it started with this initiation of like a very realistic set of experiences that I put it beyond any shadow of possibility that this is real, followed by years of kind of following this weird intuition coupled with my technical understanding of the world, right? So I have some understanding of what we know in physics, and I'm like, okay, well, what can it be? And I started thinking in that direction, and when I would reach a certain kind of fork in the road, there would be something that would happen that would definitely not, you wouldn't be able to fold this into like a methodology, scientific methodology, because it was like an intuitive thing. It's like, well, I saw these numbers, they mean this thing. It's more kind of like a long Charlie day in the basement, just connecting dots kind of thing, right? But then something would happen there that I felt that was concrete enough, and I would follow that. And then I would connect other things that I know, and I would follow that. So the whole time I was doing that, it's just a game I'm playing. Like, it was never serious. It was never like, I never put it in the forefront of like, I'm figuring out the secrets of the universe. It's like, you just do your thing, and that thing happens. Great. So, it was a fun game. And one day, we were walking in the botanical gardens in Colorado with my now fiance, and we were talking about, I told her about a lot of this stuff, and then she, she's like, all right, cool, but what do you do with that, right? And then we started talking about why plants are green. We started talking about like the fact that, plants reject green, that's the only color they don't use, that's why they're green. And then I asked why some plants are red. And she said, well, I think maybe that's because they reject red. I'm like, okay, why do they reject red? They reject green. That's not clear. So we're talking about this stuff. And there was a moment where we stepped outside so I told her that also the number 42 started following me everywhere. Okay, so this is
the
where
number 42?
Yeah. So there's a lot of components. This is why we're making a whole film about it. So I'm trying to keep the story coherent. And this is one of these things. Okay, so this is actually important to unpack because I'm trying to kind of, get through the story quickly, but I think it's important to unpack. So numbers that would appear for you, right? People see, 111 on clocks, things like that, right? It's a little flimsy because the clock does show 111 and 1111 like 4 times a day, right? So
You're about people who experience this thing where they always see the same numbers all the time everywhere they go.
Exactly.
There's something significant that happens in their lives where there's a number correlated with it, and then somehow that follows them for the rest of their lives.
Something like that, yeah. Now, there is this thing, right, in the brain where if you start paying attention to something, all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like when you buy a new car, you always
Exactly, yep.
Right. So because of that, all of these instances of people that follow these, like, very, really, like, simple things like seeing something on a clock, right? That's not enough. That's like, okay, again, it appears 4 times a day. Now your brain is looking for it. It's easy to explain this away, right? When I'm saying the number, like the number 42 would appear for me, it wasn't like that. It was in instances that just like way beyond the possibility of just like a statistical fluke, right? So basically, one example would be like I would be thinking about this subject, and I would be in traffic, and I would lift my head, and I would see a truck right in front of me, and it would be so dirty, like all muddy, and it would be one tiny area where it just wiped clean, and with a 42 written with a Sharpie on the back of it, like things like this. It's a little bit different, right? That still can be said, okay, well, maybe your eyes saw a lot of numbers in that moment, and only when it lands on that's when you register. I accept that. That's fine. But the first hint that appeared for me, which is something that I didn't tell you yet, but the first hint that appeared for me was these numbers on the floor. The Department of Water and Power, they write these numbers on the ground. You familiar with that? No. So Department of Water and Power, they write things. You'll notice it. That like, now that I told you, you'll notice it. Sometimes on the pavement, you'll see like random numbers written down with like almost like a spray or something.
Oh, like on the sidewalks.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
They represent what kind of power lines or water lines go through that thing. Okay. So I'm an editor, and I was working on a music video, and I couldn't fix a color problem for hours. So I decided to take a break. I went on a stroll. It was the middle of the night. I went to Ralph's to get a sandwich. It was right next to Pierce College. I walk around, and I'm thinking about this subject, which is every once in a while I would think about it, like how do we prove that this space is real? One of the things that was very clear to me is that light had to be involved, And I knew, because you can see it with your eyes, and I knew that there's supposed to be some kind of an entry point to the space in which we're supposed to all see the same thing, which is what I told you in the beginning. If it's not clear, you can stop me at any point. Okay. Even if the space is infinite, we all sometimes experience it and sometimes don't experience it, right? That means that we entered the space somehow. Something happens and then you're aware of it, right? So there's an entry point in which it's supposed to be the same for everybody, or at least that was my conviction or my thought, right? So then I knew light was involved. So what I was thinking about was the double slit experiment. Specifically in the context of quantum computers and how they work, and the fact that something happens when decoherence happens in the double slit experiment is that right before the particle decoheres from the wave function and becomes part of, whatever is real, or at least according to the many worlds interpretation, it basically interacts with all the instances of itself across all the parallel universes. Now this sounds highly theoretical. However, the only reason that quantum computers work is because this is a fact. Okay, so this is not enough people talking about it, but according to David Deutsch, who also is the father of the Deutsch equations, who actually made quantum computers possible, so he definitely knows what he's talking about, that's the only coherent interpretation of what's going on, which is that the reason that quantum computers work, which is, you can make these enormous calculations in an instance. Do you know anything about quantum computers?
Yeah, I know a little bit about them. Yep.
So it's because we literally distribute the computation power across all the worlds. So all the adjacent parallel universes to you are doing the exact same calculation as you are in that instance, and then you have an equation that helps you understand what part of the sliver of possibilities of it occurring this way you are, and that's what allows you to do the calculation. But the important thing for our story is that basically the fact that quantum computers work tell you that the possibility that parallel universes are real, it makes it a very, very real possibility. And that's what I was thinking about. And then I noticed that the stoplight, the way that it was changing colors, looked different from each color. It was the middle of the night, so I had not a lot of things to pay attention to. So I noticed that when it changes from green to red to yellow, the way that the light is distributed on the edges, if you squint your eyes a little bit, looks different. It's like a different pattern. Now, I knew that there's a lot of possible explanations here. Maybe the glass sits a little different. Maybe they use a different glass for each color. Who knows, right? But the second I thought that, in the context of the double slit experiment and how light behaves, I thought, would it be possible to utilize these properties to communicate between the worlds? Would it be possible to send a signal, just like quantum computers work, to actually send some kind of a signal between the worlds? And when I thought that, I had this very strong sense in me that told me, yes, look there. It was like almost like a person told me that. Now, I wasn't on any substance. I was just walking around, and it was like, yes, look there. I was like, okay. The second I thought that, I looked down, and I see these numbers from the Department of Water and Power. And what was interesting about these particular sets of numbers, because to the left of them, there was a line with a circle with a line through it, which kind of made it look like a editing software, like Premiere or something, where you move the dial. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if this number just matches some kind of a LUT number I have? That will fix my color problem.
Right.
But then I was like, Then I walked away, went, got my sandwich, came back. Coming back, I'm coming from the other side of the street, I'm looking to the other side, and I'm like, look around, nobody's gonna see me do this. Fuck it, just go take a picture of it. Because I felt like it was insane, like why would I do that, right? So I took a picture, went back home, put in the numbers in Spotlight. Now this is important because I didn't Google anything. I just literally, Spotlight on a Mac, the way it works, it looks through your computer and then it looks through the web at the same time. Spotlight is like the search engine on the Mac.
Oh.
Yeah, you basically it's like a general search.
I've never even heard of that.
Really? Command space.
Oh,
Spotlight.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, like the Finder thing. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, Spotlight is kind of like, it's more like the general one.
Yeah, got it.
And I'm not sure that the Finder searches through the web. I think Spotlight also searches through the web. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. So
basically, it's a series of 6 random numbers is all I put in. And I took a picture of that. Thank goodness, because I don't think anybody would believe it. So I just put 6 random numbers. Now think about this. It searches through both the web and the computer. Mm-hmm. What are the chances, even if it doesn't find anything of these exact 6 numbers, it would give you something adjacent. Some file with numbers that are kind of close to that. It will give you something, right? Maybe it will give you 5, 6 options.
Okay.
gave me one option, and it was not on my computer. It found something on the web from the entire internet, and it was a number that matched research paper, a physics research paper by CERN, searching for particles outside of the standard model a year after the discovery of the Higgs boson particle. So I'm sitting there.
What was this number? You still have the photo?
Yeah, I'll show you now. So these are the original numbers. Okay, 081802.
081802.
And notice something about the second number. It kind of looks like 081801, and the only reason you think that is because the second number of the first number is 8, right? So you would think it would be consecutive.
The second one looks like 03.
Exactly. So it either looks 03 or 05 even maybe. But because the first number is 081802, you think maybe it's 081801, right? So anyways, I searched the first one. Doesn't even matter about the second one right now.
Okay.
You see what I meant by the circle with the line through it?
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a dial?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So then I'm searching through the web. This is what I got. And this is actually, it's funny because it's like, this is still the music video I'm working on in the background Premiere.
Steven, can you punch that number into your spotlight, see what happens?
What's the number?
081802. Now, it also changes according to a computer and to the person and everything, but it's interesting. Let's find out.
081802.
802.
All right, so 08.
Go to Spotlight.
No, not in Google.
Not in Google. There's a little
I am on a
magnifying.
Mac. That's right.
Yeah, there's a magnifying glass.
Command space. Yeah.
There you
Boom.
go.
Spotlight. Okay.
081802. Yeah.
081802. Okay. Search. Hex color. It's a hexadecimal.
No,
color.
see, mine didn't come up with a hex color, which is interesting.
Let me see here. Can I zoom in on that?
Search the web. Search the web. Related searches on the bottom.
Jumped off. Gasket number.
Is that it? The second one? American Physical Society?
Press on this one.
Abstract, the prospect, and stereo collaborations present.
Well, but click on it. Let's see what the paper actually is.
Okay. Stereo collaborations combined.